God's favorite subject, the Matrix. Let's talk. Let's ask questions. Feel free to, for those who saw the movie, for those who didn't see the movie, you could just sit there and look puzzled, okay? Like, what? Okay? Since it is, before Purim, I did want to come in dressed in as Neo, of course, though. The wig that I bought, it didn't work out, though. I pulled it out of the bag. I'm going, what? That's not what I wanted. It's all good. It's all good. I'm still gonna try. Okay, I just got a few more days to prepare my costume. In any case, okay, we're talking about like the things that wake us up from that movie and definitely spark our interest in terms of understanding the design of our world and our creation and what our purpose is. So we spoke a lot in the last two classes. I believe this is the third class or the fourth. I don't know. I can't remember because we've been away. So we do understand our reality as being like what we talked about by Plato's parable of the three men in the cave. That the three men in the cave, if we always have to recall, the three men were chained to a cave, to the wall of the cave. The fire was behind them, and their caretakers basically looked as shadows on the wall. And their whole reality, they were raised from day one looking upon the wall, and this was their vision, this was their perception of what reality was. Shadows on the wall. They're caretakers until you take one person out of the cave and he experiences the entire vast world with its color, depth, beauty, and vastness. And he goes in to try to talk to the people inside the cave who are still chained, looking at the shadows on the wall. And so what is that compared to? Obviously, what is that compared to? Our world and what we're looking at as welcome. You are one of those people that are chained, looking at the shadows on the wall. Okay? Every single thing that we view in our reality is a shadow. The prophet, Moses, and all of the other prophets were the people who saw, to the degree that they could, the real world, the whole world. In other words, vast spiritual dimensions that are way beyond. And of course, they come and they want to convey to us the situation, and thank God, many times we accepted everything they said, even though we don't fully understand it. Okay? Moses, the greatest prophet of all, came and says, this is the layout. You got 613 pockets, and you got to go ahead and align yourself with those 613 pockets of light. Okay? Those 613 connections. Okay? That's the number of mitzvahs that there are in the Torah. But I want to just look at the idea here is that every single thing that we're viewing is a shadow, okay? Which meaning it's not really real. And even we look at what the physicists are saying, right? The nuclear physicists, in terms of we're understanding matter, it's really not so easy, okay? They really didn't get to the final end in terms of what is the actual small particles of subatomic particles. They came down to now the string theory, okay, very tight woven strings, right? Which is going to be very interesting in terms of what we're going to delve into today. So in terms of understanding reality, we'll just look at a difference between the movie, the story of the Matrix, and what our situation is. As we recall in the story of the Matrix, that basically there was one man who basically created the artificial intelligence. And the artificial intelligence became so powerful that basically there ended up being a war between mankind and the artificial intelligence, the machines. And the machines basically, in the course of the war, the humans, in order to try to win the war, they wanted to take away the energy of the machines, and therefore they scorched the sky that there would be no sunlight, and therefore there would be no more energy. The machines responded in kind by basically genetically breeding humans and using them as batteries to run their system, okay? Which is something that we have spoken about in previous classes. And we've spoken about something we call the klipa, or klipot. Klipot means husk or shells, okay? These husks or shells, which really became the elements of matter that we experience here, but there's a difference between before Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden and post and after Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden. Before Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden, the whole incident that happened there, it was really The issue was, yes, there was this existence of these outer husks, or let's call them external influences. Okay? Let's call it not a good thought. Okay? Not a good motivation. And they were out there, and they did exist because God created them. Actually, there were elements of worlds that existed before that God made in order to set the stage for something that we call free will. In any case, to cut the story short, Adam and Eve partook from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and therefore all of reality changed. They were astral bodies, not physical, very mind, mostly mind, and now they became congealed into the physical bodies that we have today. So these physical bodies, in a certain sense, we would call it klipa, or husk, or shell. Okay? Garment, a lot of people call it. And all of physical matter, of course, has a totally different influence on us than it did before Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden. Before Adam and Eve, in the whole incident of the Garden of Eden, the evil was out there. It was an externalized kind of thing. Once they partook of this tree of knowledge of good and evil, it became internalized. And therefore, there are little voices in our heads that are telling us to go eat the chocolate cake that is in the refrigerator. It has your name on it. In the middle of the night. Right? When you've already had 3 pieces. Okay? That's called the klipa, yeah.
Did I hear you say that our bodies are affecting them?
In a certain sense, yes. Because that's why, ever since that they ate from the tree of knowledge, the body has to go into the ground and decay as part of its rectification, of its klipa. Okay? It has to be divested of the influence of the shell. It's in the body. The body, basically, as we learn it from Sefer Tanya, we're going to do Sefer Tanya, but we're in a different portion, but brings about the lower level soul, the nefesh bahami, so we call it the animal level soul, which everybody has, is basically made up of 4 elements: earth, wind, fire, and water. That earth, wind, fire, and water has an influence on us. Talking about the deeper spiritual sense of earth, wind, fire, and water. The deeper spiritual sense of earth, of course, has depression, because earth is low. Wind is too much talking, chatter, needless talk, also inflated spirit. Fire is anger, and water is desires and lusts. All of them are responsible in one way or other, pulling us in different directions, away from the true path to our soul. Okay? So in any case, to get away from that, there's a big difference between the story and reality. That in the storyline, to get back to the storyline, as the matrix, or we'll call the machines, they had to genetically design a way to extract from the human body energy, to turn basically the human body into a battery. So basically they would have huge, vast fields of bodies in a fluid hooked up, and of course they had to keep these people occupied, so therefore they developed a kind of a machine, or rather what they would call a dream kind of, a program, where these people were, they're in an encasement in a tank of water, in a liquid, but meanwhile they think that they're living daily lives. Okay? They're going to work, they're coming back, and they're going through all kinds of things, right? But meanwhile, there's a different reality going on. While they're going about their business, they're all basically in a dream state. Okay? So, we're also in a dream state. Okay? But it's a little bit different that we're going to discover today. Okay? Because there we had who was creating, I missed one point. The point was, Adam, we know from the Arizal, was responsible for giving the Klipa their full reign, their full dominion. Okay? Like I said, before Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden, the husks, the external forces, didn't have much of an influence. Okay? It was over there. It was external. Once they partook, it became internalized. Okay? So we say there, the Arizal says, through that act, Adam gave we call it the Ma'areches HaKlipot, the system of the shells, a full domain. In other words, he made them to be the boss, to be a head. Before he had dominion over it, he can control it, it was external. Then after he partook, it took over, okay? Which is why the bodies have to die, okay? Basically, because if you give measure for measure, we discussed this, everything God does is measure for measure. If you want to give precedent over to the body over the soul, then that's how your life is going to be lived. And therefore, you're going to look at the body as the essence, and the soul as being secondary. So therefore, that is how your reality is going to be, and the body is going to be the boss. I.e., the machines will be the boss. So the machines basically made this program for a multi-dimensional, multi-people, kind of like it's interwoven fabric of a programming that everybody could live a life in it. That's different than what we're talking about here, but we're going to see it's definitely more intriguing. Okay, so here we're starting on the sheets here. Okay, so we're starting with what we call, this is the book of Tanya. The book of Tanya has different divisions of it. This division is called Shar HaYichud V'Ha'emunah, which means a yichud, which means joining, connecting. Some people use it as a name translation for a meditation. Okay? That's what I have it on top. If you have it on your sheet, yichud, connection, v'ha'emunah. Emunah is, of course, faith and belief. Okay? So to understand a little bit, let us understand at least a small measure the statement in the Zohar that Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. This is just a very vague statement. We're not going to get it to a later chapter. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. When we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, that is called, according to the Zohar's view, higher level unity. Are we all on the same page? We all got it? Higher level. Yichud Ila'ah, cosmic unity. I like to translate it, okay? Because it's beyond. And then after we say the Shema, there's another phrase that we say silently, except for one day a year. We say Baruch Shem Kavod. We say it in a lower voice. And that is what's called Yichud Tata, lower level unity. What is this talking about? Okay? It's a very strange phrase, but he'll get to it in a later chapter. What is an upper unity? What is a lower unity? How is it that when we're saying Shema, that represents this, and when we're saying Baruch Shem, blessed be in the name of his glorious kingdom, is lower? But of course, as most Hasidic masters, they'll give you another question. They always answer a question with a question, and then they'll go into an explanation. So here's a great verse. You will know this day and take unto your heart that Havaya, Yud Kei Vav Kei, is Elohim, is God, or actually they translate here, God is the Lord. In the heavens above and upon the earth below, there is no other. Ein od milvado, right? Ein od, okay? So the question here arises, this requires explanation. For would it occur to you that there is a God dwelling in the waters beneath the earth, that it is necessary to negate so strongly as to say, yeah, you got to make this sit on your heart. In other words, you got to make this sit on your heart. There's nothing else, even underneath all of the waters of the earth, right? There's no God down there. What, I would think that there's a God down there? Why would I think that there's a God down there that God has to say, no, you got to sit on this, baby, right? You got to sit on this big time. You got to let it sit on your heart. Nothing down there, right? Nothing else. It's like to such a degree, it's a little bit strange. So now he's going to start off with his discourse, okay? So it is written, Forever, O God, your word stands firm in the heavens. Le'olam Hashem davarcha nitzav bashamayim. So this is a strange statement. Forever, God, your word stands in the heavens. This is from the verse from King Solomon. Okay? But the Baal Shem Tov, of blessed memory, has explained that your word, which you uttered, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters. These very words and letters stand firmly forever within the firmament of heaven and are forever clothed within all the heavens to give them life. Okay? As it is written, the word of God shall stand firm forever. And his words live and stand firm forever. Why? So the idea really is that we know, actually I'll look this up, from this book, right? It brings down the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, actually. Sefer Yetzirah should be literally translated as formation. But the book of formation brings down, and if you'll look in the very first chapter of Genesis, you'll see that it says 10 times, and God said. And God said, and God said, and God said. You'll see 10 times that it says, and God said. These are known as the 10 statements of creation. We say that God created the world with 10 statements. Okay? Just to throw the extra tidbit at you. That really, it's mentioned actually in the first chapter of Genesis, that the word Elohim, which is the name of God, is mentioned 32 times. Okay? It's a dynamic number, 32, besides being in my email. Okay? Address. Okay? It is a dynamic because if you look at it, there are 32 mystical paths of wisdom also that channel divine flow into this world. The first letter of the Torah begins with the letter Beit. That's the numerical value of 2. And the last letter of the Torah is the letter Lamed, which the numerical value is 30. 32. Okay? And 32 also means Lave, which means heart. Okay? So the idea here is God, but if you look in the first chapter of Genesis, there's only 10 times it says, and God said, actually, really. They counted in the Talmud. After the person made such a statement, they went and counted because that's what you really should do. Don't be lazy and take it on face value. Because in the Talmud, they did those things. If you did that in a class now, they kick you out. But then they go, well, when we counted, there's only 9. Ha! Right? And the answer was, the word Bereshit. The very first word of the entire Torah, Bereshit, is the 10th statement. Very sublime. It doesn't say, and Hashem said, but it is. Okay? And that's accepted. So in any case, the idea here is this, and follow me. God made the world in 10 statements. And it's not like how you and me make a statement and then we walk away. Or President Trump makes a statement and walks away. Or any other president for that matter. God, when he made those statements are giving every single thing its existence right here and now. Okay? It's not like it's like God is still uttering those 10 statements. And God said, let there be light. God said, let there be a firmament. God said, let the waters gather. God said, let there be dry land and trees, etc., etc., etc. Okay? So all of those statements are still being uttered and still, in the spiritual realm, giving every single thing its animation right now, in the deep spiritual sense of it. Okay? So that's what he says here. Okay? These very words and letters stand firmly forever within the firmament of heavens. That's the words of let there be a firmament. And those statements are forever clothed within all the heavens to give them life. As it is written, the word of our God stands firm forever, and his words live and stand firm forever. Okay? So those things, those statements, are still giving every single thing in the physical realm its real animation. Okay? For if the letters were to depart, even for an instant, God forbid, and return to their source, all the heavens would become naught and absolute nothingness. And it would be as though they had never existed at all, exactly as before the utterance let there be a firmament. Okay? If he were to withdraw any second from any of those letters of let there be a firmament, the firmament would cease to exist. And so it is with all created things. In all the upper worlds, upper and lower worlds, and even this physical earth, which is the kingdom of the silent, or we'll call it the inanimate. The earth being inanimate. Rocks. Rocks! Rocks have a soul. Rocks have a vibration. We know that, actually, from Yaakov. When Yaakov Avinu, Jacob, our forefather, went and slept in Mount Moriah, and he said he put stones around his head when he went to sleep. And when he wake up, it says, and he took the stone that was around his head. And they say, why did you change the language? First it was stones, then it was one stone. Well, how did that happen? So Chazal explained to us, Chazal means our wise men of blessed memory, that the rocks were arguing. The rocks had an argument among themselves. Each one of the rocks wanted to say, I want the righteous dude, righteous man, to put his head on me. And this other rock says, well, I want it on me. And the other one said, no, I want it on me. Right? And they were all quarreling amongst themselves until God said, good, enough. We'll just make you all one rock. Aren't you happy now? Right? And they're, okay. Okay? They all became one rock. Rocks have a vibration. Maybe we don't understand the vibration. Okay? We do have tails, actually. Not all rocks. But we do have certain scary books. We have scary books. Where people who spoke gossip have to be reincarnated, or part of their soul becomes reincarnated into a rock, which doesn't speak. Okay? In other words, you spoke too much, now you'll shut up. Okay? So people, sometimes there are souls in the scary books that if they spoke too much or they spoke bad about certain righteous people, so elements of the souls have to go into a rock, and hopefully, some righteous men will sit on them, right? If they're a big rock, and get benefit, and then they could be elevated and move on. Okay? Okay? I'm not going to share with you any more of the scary books. Okay? If the letters of the 10 utterances by which the earth was created during the 6 days of creation were to depart from it, but for an instant, God forbid, it would revert to naught and absolute nothingness exactly as before the 6 days of creation. Most people know this, and when they hear about the Matrix, they go, okay. As we know, that when a couple of scenes where you see the Matrix and there's these letters, random letters, coming down. Also, towards the end of the movie, I believe he saw all the people, the letters. And in the other subsequent movies, which bombed, right? He also saw that everything was made up of letters. This is not a fairy tale, okay, because we have actually stories of rabbis. One rabbi, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, while he was on his deathbed, facing up, and his students were around him. He says, look, and he showed the beam. There was a cross beam, and he says, it's not a beam. It's Kuf, Vav, Resh, He, Korah, which means beam in Hebrew. In other words, he saw not the beam, he saw Hebrew letters. See, the idea here, if we think about it, of the Hebrew letters, the Hebrew is not a language like any other language. That's what we're discovering right now. It's not your Swahili, or it's not whatever, okay? It's a language that God used to create all of creation. The letters are very, very dynamic. As a matter of fact, I don't look at them as letters anymore. I look at them as primordial energy fields, because each letter has a vibration to it, just like any language, but these are much more dynamic. When we say b, like for bait, it has an energy. G, d. All of these have energies to them, okay? And the combination of those energies put together with the right intention in mind can do amazing things. As a matter of fact, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, if you recall in Exodus, where he killed the Egyptian man, He did not kill the Egyptian man by throwing him off a scaffold, like it in Prince of Egypt, or strangling Vincent Price. Okay? It was Vincent Price, I tell you. I was like, is that Vincent Price? He's so young. Oh my gosh. Okay? I only knew him when he was old. Okay? That was Vincent Price. Okay? In any case, he didn't strangle him. He didn't throw him off a scaffold. He said a word of God. He said 3 letters. Or some people say it was a 42-letter name of God. Actually, there's 6 versions. Because really, I think they want to obscure it from you because they don't want that to get out. Because then everybody's just going to be doing everybody else. If they get angry, they just do it. Right? So, you got to know how to do it. But it's not such an abstract thing. Because we all know the Memorex commercial from a long time ago. At least I remember it. Is it live or is it Memorex? And Ella Fitzgerald was singing a bar and broke the glass, right? The famous classic. And they did actually that on a Mythbusters. I don't watch Mythbusters, but I don't know where I was. And all of a sudden, it's a Mythbusters. And they're doing that specific thing. Can a person actually, with his voice, break something, right? And they first tested it on just a machine voice. On a speaker, putting the speaker next to a glass and, shooting the sound through a speaker, and they did it. But then they wanted to get it live. So they had to get a rock star. They got a real good rock star with a real good voice. I'm like, no rock stars have good voices, right? I don't know. They got one. And he was doing it for hours, man. He was, whatever he was doing. Wasn't working. Took a break, come back, and he did it, though. He did it. He finally did do it. Okay? It can be done. Okay? The vibrations, as we know, are very, very big and have huge ramifications, right? Just like right now, you can think a happy thought and you start to feel good. You can think of a sad idea and you can start to feel sad. Every single thing. And you could just put words together and you could go ahead and build yourself a happy thought. Imagine yourself right now. Just do this meditation. Okay? You're waking up in the morning, and the first thought you think in the day is, I can hardly wait to see the great experiences God is going to bring me today. This is just a bunch of words and letters I just shared with you. You can imagine this. Work with me now, here, just for a moment. I can hardly wait to see the great experiences that God is going to bring to me today. That has a certain energy to it, wouldn't you admit? Even saying it right now. Right? It has a certain energy. Letters, words, have energies. Okay? And the Hebrew is more powerful because that is the intricate inner working of every single thing physical. Okay? That's the inner of this water. Okay? It's mem, yud, mem. Okay? Okay. So the same thought was expressed by the Ari on the last paragraph in that first page there. The same thought was expressed by the Ari of blessed memory when he said that even the completely inanimate matter, such as stones or earth or water, there is a soul and spiritual life force. That is the enclothing of the letters of speech of the 10 utterances which give life and existence to inanimate matter, that it might arise out of the naught and nothingness which preceded the 6 days of creation. So here we have the workings of the real spiritual structure of every single thing physical that is basically made up of letters. Okay? And if you know the letters, so then you have an edge over it. Okay? It changes the relationship to physical matter. Like, for example, the klipa. The big thing that I think we spoke about before was that if an external influence comes to you, if you know what it is, and you can name it as a klipa, a shell, a husk, right? Like we talked about Lil, Adam's first wife, right? I think we did. I hope we did. If not, too bad. She's on the magazine covers and all of the eye candy as you're trying to do in the checkout counter. And if you just call the name, you go, Lil, there you are again. And then once you know the name, you have power over it. Okay? Knowing the name of anything really gives one power over it. Okay? Now, although the name Evan, which is stone in Hebrew, is not mentioned in the 10 utterances recorded in the Torah. It's not. The word stone or Evan, God didn't say, and let there be stones. It's not anything. If you look at the 10 statements of creation, it's not there. It's not there. So what are you saying? That every single thing? So, nevertheless, life force flows to the stone through combinations and substitutions of letters, which are transposed into the 231 gates, either in direct or reverse order, as explained in the Sefer Yetzirah. Okay? Until the combination of the name Evan, stone, descends from the 10 utterances as is derived from them, and this is the life force of the stone. Okay, so what is the 231 gates? Okay? So we have here in Sefer Yetzirah, if I say each letter is an energy field, and I combine that with another energy field, so I'm making a combination, I'm blending things, I'm blending something. If I would take how many letters there are in the Hebrew alphabet, there's 22. Okay? And if I would take letter Aleph and connect it to each one of those letters, in other words, if I would do 21 times 22, okay, I would end up with the number actually of 660, 200, let's say, 462, if I would times that, okay, 462. What the heck are you going? Where are you going with this, Rabbi? If I have to, but that's when it's going back and forth. What we're working on is the simplest manner of combinations of one letter to another. In other words, I would divide that in half. In other words, if I would put the first letter with the second letter, that's one combination. That's Aleph and Beit. If I would put the first letter with the third letter, that's Aleph and Gimel. I can do that, and it ends up being, just going one way, it ends up being the numerical value of 231. So if I hear on the Sefer Yetzirah, actually, it's nice. It's a nice picture of string art. Everybody remembers doing string art in high school, right? I somehow got out of that one, okay? So in any case, what happens if you put on a circle, and there's different ways that they do this, you can put one letter on each one of these little points and connect it with another, you end up with a 2-letter combination, okay? Actually, in early Kabbalah, really all words start off with 2-letter combinations. Nowadays in Hebrew, it's a 3-letter combination, okay? Televizia. Okay, actually it's a little bit more, okay? They have to modernize a lot of things, okay? Because, they didn't have television in Moses' day, okay? But the idea really is if you think about all the combinations of all the letters, you'll end up with 231 connections, okay? So in any case, what he's saying here is, there are many ways that you could go ahead and connect the letters, transpose them in different ways. It's a whole nother class, how to sometimes you use a numerical value of a letter. Sometimes you'll use how a letter sounds, and there's certain letters that sound the same, and you could switch off with that. There's different ways you can switch off letters and recombine letters. There's many different ways that it's done in all of the teaching and all the Kabbalistic writings. So basically what he's saying is if you start off with the 10 statements, and you take this letter with this letter, a numerical value, and then it recombines, it ends up being stone. In other words, it's not the 10 statements as they are simply said. The letters have to recombine. Actually, they really have to, because if we would experience the letter in its raw form, it will be too bright for us. We're going to learn later on, there's a certain special technique of prayer of the Baal Shem Tov. It's a fantastic piece. That how he basically uses the letters as a meditative technique. And he looks at the letter, actually in his mind's eye, and he tries to get the letter to shine very bright, as if the light of the infinite is shining through this letter. As if you're at a doorway, and there's a keyhole that is shaped like a letter, and on the other side of the door is the infinite light. And imagine now you're looking at that keyhole, at the infinite light that is shining through the little form of whatever letter that is. Okay? And he uses that, and he says, in all your prayers, You have to do that. Okay? It's a remarkable technique. It's like, what? Yes. In all your prayers, you have to get all the letters and the words to shine. Because what you're doing is you're connecting your soul to the primordial energy fields of creation. This is how to get out of the matrix, because we want to get out of the matrix. This is the form of how to do it. You have to connect with the Hebrew letters. Okay? Because when we understand the names of things in Hebrew, we understand the essence of its form. Okay? To a great degree. So the idea of this statement that we just did was, things recombine. Letters will recombine. Substitutions of letters can combine and get to what we call a rock or a stone in Hebrew. Okay? So every single thing in creation, through the combination of those original 22 letters, everything comes from those letters and the utterances of those words. And so it is with all created things in the world. Their names in the holy tongue are the very letters of speech, which descend degree by degree from the 10 utterances recorded in the Torah by means of substitutions and transpositions of letter through the 231 gates. They call each one of those a gate. Interesting, because it's like the energy, I would say, between the letters, until they reach and become invested in that particular creative thing to give it life. This descent is necessary. Why? Because individual creatures are not capable of receiving their life force directly from the 10 utterances of the Torah. For the life force issuing directly from them is far greater than the capacity of the individual creatures, because it was just too bright, the energies. Okay? They can receive the life force only when it descends and is progressively diminished, degree by degree, by means of substitutions and transpositions of the letters, by gematriot, which is their numerical values, until the life force can be condensed and enclosed, and there can be brought forth from its particular creature. From it, a particular creature. The Baal Shem Tov does say that our names are our essence. If you want to wake up somebody sleeping, you whisper in their ear their Hebrew name, because that is their soul. Okay? That is the name also Rabbi Nachman brings down of their mission. You got to go and meditate on that one. Okay? That if you get a Hebrew name, that's your mission, whatever that is. That's deep. That's why some people, after they finish their mission here, they have to get a new name. Right? Because they've finished their mission, and if you want to get a new mission, you have to get a new name, because that's your mission. So, and the name by which it is called in the Holy Tongue is a vessel for the life force condensed into the letters of that name, which has descended from the 10 utterances in the Torah that have power and vitality to create something. We call it ex nihilo or yesh mi'ayin, something from nothing, and give it life forever. For the Torah and the Holy One, blessed be He, are one. Okay? So we used last time also the idea of the metaphor of a projector, a film, and the screen. Right? That the Torah, we say, is the blueprint of creation. God looked into the Torah and created the world. But it's not like a blueprint where once you make your world, you go ahead and fold up the papers and put it on the shelf. The Torah is actually causing the 10 statements of creation, mainly, the animation of every single thing in existence, very much like the projector, film, and screen. The world is the screen, the film is the Torah, and the projector, the light, that's the light of God. Every single thing right now is being shot onto the screen, okay? There's a deeper reality, okay? The idea really is to connect, where is this in the Torah? They ask. We're in Purim this week. They ask in the Gemara, Haman min ha-Torah mi'ayin. Where is Haman in the Torah? You know the story of Esther. And the villain, his name was Haman, or Haman, we call him. They wanted to know, they asked in the Talmud, where is Haman in the Torah? Because everything has to be in the Torah. Everything has to be in the film. Otherwise, it won't be on the screen. If it's on the screen, it has to be in the film. Where in the film is it? We got to get to the root of it. And the best thing is, we're all brought down The earlier you can go in the 5 books of Moses, the better, because it's much more concentrated. If you can get something, a root in Genesis, it's really good. It's the best. Okay? Because really, even in the first chapter of Genesis, everything is there. So they did find him. You know where he is. When Adam ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and they were hiding when God was coming in the garden, and he says, "Where are you?" Right? And Adam says, "Well, I was hiding because I was not clothed." Right? And so God says, "Did you eat from the tree that I told you not to eat?" Now the Hebrew goes, Hamin ha'etz. Hamin is Haman. Hamin ha'etz, says it. The root of Haman, those letters, really go all the way back from Adam in the Garden of Eden when he was hiding. The idea of concealment. That was the whole idea that Haman is expressing, and that really helps us also. The idea of concealment, because, you know, sometimes in the projector on the film, you're going to get black and you're going to get white and you're going to get things that's going to be hidden, and all kinds of things are flashing on the screen, right? So every single thing really is projected in the Torah. So now the dynamic thing about it is this, okay? This is what's so cool, okay? I've given a class on eating once. This here comes more practical. Besides the meditative aspect, that the Hebrew letters are very dynamic, and if you could pick up Hebrew reading, you should. I don't know. Did anybody come and teach you Hebrew here? Awesome. Really worthwhile to study the letters, at least. You start off small. The letters are very powerful. They're vibrations. And if you get even to practice reading, even if you don't understand it, it has a spiritual influence. There are 3 books that we have handed down to us that just the reading has a effect. Okay? Just the reading of it on our souls. And that's the Chumash, 5 books of Moses. It's also Tehillim, the book of Psalms, and the Zohar. Okay? So just to read it, even if you don't understand it, it's a phonetic language. I know it might be like, it's like Chinese. Okay? It can be done. Okay? Once you get it, you got it. The idea really is to learn blessings. Blessings. You know, every single thing we say blessings on. Every single food item we say blessings on. So the Baal Shem Tov brings a gewaltic thing, he says. He explains here from the verse that's in Deuteronomy that not by bread alone does a man live, but what comes out of the mouth of God does man live. That's the loose translation of that verse. Not by bread alone does man live, but what comes out of the mouth. But really, he has a different understanding of it. And he goes into a little expose that people once asked the great Kabbalist, the Arizal, and they said, we don't understand something, right? They came to the Ari, or the Ari heard what they were discussing something. It doesn't make sense, the connection of soul to body. Because you know something? The soul is spiritual. It doesn't have any connection to physical. It's completely spiritual, right? And yet, a funny phenomenon happens, that if the body does not eat, the soul leaves the body. Why should a soul leave a body if a body doesn't eat? The soul doesn't need the food, because the food is physical and it's spiritual. And yet, if the body stops eating, the soul, after a certain period of time, will leave. Why? Why should it? Right? What's the connection? So the Arizal called them all fools and idiots. They don't understand the workings of creation. Baruch Hashem we do. Baruch Hashem we have the Torah. Baruch Hashem. Okay? It's because, really, like what I'm telling you about today, within every single thing in matter, there are letters. Okay? Those letters give every single thing its spiritual DNA. They give every single thing its animation. Okay? So, when we make blessings on food, specifically we use God's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, and then we say, whatever this is, Shehakol Nied Bibaro, what the rabbis decreed, with all things his word came to be, Shehakol, that everything, Niyeh, will be, Bidvaro, with his word. And so, when we say that, we actually, using our blessing, ignite the spiritual aspect of the food, of the spiritual aspect that is contained within the food, and that is our soul food. The blessings we say ignite the spiritual energy within the food. And then we eat the food, and that is the energy which our soul thrives. Now, a lot of people don't make blessings, and they're still walking around. I don't know if they have much soul to them. They can walk, they can talk, they can speak to you, but is anything going on? I don't know. We're talking about trying to build the soul. A lot of people walk around with starving souls on the earth. We call them the walking dead, not the show. Okay? Wasn't there a show like that? Thank you. There's a different kind of walking dead. Okay? They don't say blessings. They don't appreciate what God gives them. Okay? So they could be walking the earth, but spiritually completely depleted. Okay? So when we say the blessings, we ignite the spiritual aspect of the letters that are contained within the food. And then we take that with us. And that becomes our spiritual energy. Okay? So it's very dynamic when you think about it. How blessings that we say and the clothes that we wear are made up of letters. And the houses that we live in, the cars that we drive, everything has these letters within them. So that's really how we say people who would view the Matrix would be, whoa. That's exactly like this chapter and the chapters to follow in a certain sense. Right? The letters. Everything is made up of letters. The Kabbalists would walk in a room, they would not see a table. They'd see the Hebrew letters. They would see a chair. They see the inner spiritual aspect of every single thing that is existing in the form of letters. Not too far. Okay? And then, of course, the technique is prayer, the certain prayer technique. But of course, you guys got to go ahead and take up some Hebrew classes. Okay, but and the idea really is that there's much more going on than what meets the eye. Okay, any questions?